Welcome to the conversation. I'm Paul Grondahl, the director of the New York State Writers Institute at the University of Albany. Before I introduce our guest, Jean-Remy Monnay, I want to remind you that you can follow all these archived interviews on the New York State Writers Institute YouTube channel. You can catch them at our website, nyswritersinstitute.org, and you can follow us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Now it's my great pleasure to welcome Jean-Remy Monnay. He is the founder and artistic director of the Black Theatre Troupe of Upstate New York. Welcome, Jean-Remy.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here, to be talking to you here. Thanks a lot for asking me to do this.
So we'll talk about this project that came out of after the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis in May. Your work, powerful work, 846. But first I want to talk a little bit about your background. You came from Haiti when you were young to this country, and you've had a long career in state service. Can you tell us a little bit about how you made your way here and you know, all the work you did before you got more fully involved in theater?
Well, I mean, I wasn't that young. I'm originally from Haiti, and I came here in the country, in this country, in 1982.
Okay.
My mother was living here since the late 70s. So, and then I came in to join my mother in 1982, and I went to school, went to college, and then I started working for this in New York City. I started working for the state in 1988. And I worked with a couple of different agencies, and then in 2018 I retired from the state. You know, I always work in HR, and then but I always do theater. Theater was always my thing. You know, I've been doing theater since I was 9. You know, from Haiti, and then I came here in '82, and I stopped doing theater for a while because I didn't speak the language. You know, I was still doing some theater with a Haitian troupe down in New York City, and then I moved up here in 1997 while I was still working for the state, and then in 1999 I decided to go back to college for theater. Mainly because I wanted to get back into the stage and perform in English. So, which I did, and then I started my first play at Hubbard Hall in Cambridge with Kevin Maguire. So, and in 1999, 2000 was my first plays, my first production working at Hubbard Hall, doing my first play in English. And then since then, I've been doing it. And then I started the theater company with a friend in 2009. And when we realized that I was one of a few person of color on the local stage, you know, we decided we got to do something about this, you know, and what we did started in 2009, and then it was, it lasted a year, and that it didn't work out. But I started it back in 2011 because it was too important to just let it go. It was too important, for something like that, you know, try to bring diversity and more people of color, and to let it go. And I started it back, by myself. And in 4 years ago, we started as a Black Theatre Troupe of Upstate New York. I mean, we started at the Soul Rebel Performance Troupe. And then in 4 years ago, I changed the name to the Black Theatre Troupe of Upstate New York. So we started back in 2009. Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, so I'm interested in the theater you were doing in Haiti and the theater you've been doing here for many years. Is it different in terms of the style or the acting or directing at all, or is it very similar styles?
No, I mean, similar. Theater is theater everywhere, almost everywhere. It's the kind of theater that's different. Back then, you know, I was a kid. I was just doing theater, you know, comedies and drama and stuff. But as I got older, as I got older, I started to do, even back in Haiti, when I was in my 17, 18, I knew it was in me to start fighting against injustice. And if you remember during the Duvalier Baby Duck, Papa Duck in Haiti, we were doing a lot of plays, fighting against that regime, against the government, against the mistreatment of the people, so I started doing that back then. But with the Black Theatre Troupe, the difference is between when I was a kid and now the kind of theater, now the kind of work that I do, is more about, social injustice and racism and slavery, about our stories. That's the kind of play we do mostly.
Right. I want to read, we talked about this, and I want to read part of this essay that you had published in the Times-Union, because it got a tremendous response, and I found it very powerful and moving. I'll just read one paragraph, because I want to talk about, theater for social change that you've been in part of, especially
right.
The disproportionate number of Black and brown people incarcerated in this country. You've done some good work, pushing for prison reform.
Right, thank you.
So I want to read this. As a Black man living in America, I can tell you we live in constant fear. Fear for our young men and women. Black mothers are afraid to bring their children into this world. 10-year-old Black boys are quick to put their hands up when they see a cop or a white man. Black men are forced to put a fake smile on when a white woman is walking toward him on the same side of the street so they can feel safe. As a Black friend put it, I don't know which is the worst enemy for me right now. A deadly virus, or a white man with a gun, or a Karen with a cell phone. That's powerful. Was obviously this came from your heart, and it's something that you've lived with.
Yes.
What is this moment of George Floyd? How did it change the world, like in an instant? And as you write in this essay, this is 400 years of oppression of Black people and enslavement in this country. But what was it about that George Floyd moment that caused you to write this? And then we'll talk about the 846 play project. What about his killing after all these dozens and even hundreds of killings of Black people by police?
Right. I was just about to say that the George Floyd thing is not, it's not new. I mean, this been boiling up. It's been with me for years. Every day you wake up and you don't know what's next. Every day you wake up, something like this. Every day you wake up and you have brothers and sisters, you have other, friends and Black and kids and myself, and you don't know who's next. And nothing is being done about it, for years. When is it going to stop? Okay, and it's been a struggle. I mean, I'm leaving home. I don't know if I'm coming back home. Okay, and but the George Floyd things, it's like just like for everybody else, it's like, okay, this is it. That's it. We got to do something about that. When the people got out there and the protesting and it's like I said, we have enough. We had enough, after this one, wake up on national television and on social media to see this, a person, of color, watching what's going on. And this was the last thing for me as an artist, as a person who was fighting social injustices. And I knew that I had to do something, in this past, a few months. I had to do something. I could do it by myself with the Black Theatre Troupe, because this is how, I raise my voice, by, being on stage and to fight. Some people use their pen, or some people do poetry, some people sing, against this, systemic injustice. Me, I do it through theater, and I couldn't do that because of the lockdown. So I decided the best way to have a more powerful voice is to work with other, artistic directors in the area. And I talked with Maggie at Cap-Rep and David Girard and Troy Foundry. And then we decided, let's work together Okay, I want to start this project. I want to lead this project. Let's work together to do something. Let's raise our voices. I wake up every day with tears, and I said, okay, all right. I said, if I'm going to have tears in my eyes, I want to have tears because I accomplished something, because I do something. I fight this, devil, this evilness. So we got together, between the three artistic directors, and then, and I said, let's get four more theater company who've been fighting this thing, and let's get them with us, and then do something with our voice. This is how it started, and we asked all those theater companies to submit a piece that, for about 8 minutes and 46 seconds, each pieces, and let's raise our voice. Let's tell them how we feel, and let's see if we can change things. And that's what we did. It was very successful, very, powerful, and I was very proud of it to work with those, powerful, theaters locally to make this happen. So that's how we got,
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you brought 7 of them together, and then you were the one who kind of organized them, and then you put them all online. This is a pandemic. You couldn't do theater like you normally did, right? How did you physically produce them? Each group did them socially distanced or something, or all by Zoom, or how were they done?
Yes, each group, I asked them to find a piece about what's going on right now, the George Floyd the movement, the Black, and find a piece that speak the truth, that speak, the injustice, that speak the evilness out there, and find a piece, and then, they recorded themselves at home, Zoom or live, and then they submitted the video to me, each of the theater companies, and then between CapRep and Troy Foundry, was a lot of those, high-tech equipment and people to edit it. We got all the 7 pieces, and then they put it together, and they nice, edit it, and then that's how it happened. Each theater company had to submit their own piece, record it, on their own, and then they submit it to me.
So you talked about when you first started doing theater in this area, you were one of the few or only Black performers. Has that improved? The people who acted and wrote and performed and produced these 7 mini plays that were all 8 minutes, 46 seconds to correspond to how long George Floyd had his neck kneeled on by the Minneapolis police officer that ended up killing him. I love the power of that time frame for every play. But has it gotten better? Are there more Black performers at all facets, from acting to directing to producing, in this area?
I mean, I couldn't, when I first started, I was nervous about it back in 2011. We did our first play with 7 Black actors. I decided to do that. I was nervous. I didn't know I was going to be able to find those actors, but luckily, I did. Some of them were new actors, and we started. I'm out there working and talking to people. Most of the actors who work with the theater knew. If I have to hold their hand, I talk to them, I encourage them, and let's do this. And now, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the past, but now going forward, I can do any plays now, and with 20 actors, Black actors, and people of color, with no problem. Because things are changing. We still have a long way to go. There's still a lot of work to be done. But now that I would have no problem to find actors. Now, not taking all the credits now, because there are a couple of group, who's doing the same kind of work right now, which making things much better. But for what I've been doing back then, yeah, I have put in a lot of people who've been out there, who's writing, who's acting. Some of them have acted at CapRep in local theater companies and move on and do film. Yes, things are much better, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I want to read one more paragraph from your essay. that was in the Times Union. Here's this paragraph. It says, that's what I want to talk about, how much progress is being made, because, you know, there's been many movements since the Civil Rights Movement, most notably in the late 1960s. And I think a lot of Black activists, you know, see one or two steps forward and then kind of a slide back. But you feel like that this movement is different. You write, yes, our people are still dying. Yes, it's heartbreaking. Yes, it may take a while, but there's no going back now. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep marching. Attention is being paid. People are listening and the world is watching. America is finally learning about our history. They know about Martin Luther King Jr. Now it is time to learn about who and what came before him. Slavery, Juneteenth, the Tulsa race riot. So you feel that this movement that is really only 4 months old, you think it's different than previous movements? You can see something happening that wasn't happening before?
Definitely, and it's different. And now, it's, when you look at it now, you're watching people, white people, and who's not afraid, who's not afraid to tell about their privileges, who's out there and talk about that, which is big. Now, and you find now without even things like the car racing, what do you call it now? We're taking,
NASCAR.
And
NASCAR.
taking down NASCAR. This is something that, just think about that. You talk about, people, governments and governors and mayors, and taking down the statues, voices and monuments, and this is big. It's that's why I say there's no going back. That's why now, because this is the point now where people are not afraid to stand up and speak up, regardless of your race. We're not in it alone. I'm not in it alone. Like when I decided to do 846, and I talked to Maggie, I talked to David, those people, especially in the theater community, and just think about it. In every place you go, I stand with the Black Lives Movement. I stand with the Black, people. I stand with the people of color, and this is big, and it's unfortunate. It's happening now. It's making it tougher because of COVID. And the government we're living with doesn't make it easier, and but it's there's no going back, and it's big, and I know, me personally, that I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep fighting it through what I do through the theater, even if I have to help make that change in the theater community, I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah. I also like how you answer this very last paragraph. I thought was really hit me of your essay, because now there's this counter movement, Blue Lives Matter, pro-police supporters are now challenging the Black Lives Matter people, and there's been some clashes and tension. But you write, all lives matter, yes, but not all lives are hunted, shot, and treated like animals. I mean, I think that says it. So how do you respond to those people who want to say, but Blue Lives Matter and White Lives Matter? And
well, I think those people, I really, especially now after months and years with the Black Lives Matter movement, I think those people just refuse to accept it, just refuse to understand it. I think they do, but when you have this racism thing deep inside you, and you can't change people like that. They're gonna find excuses not to try to understand it, okay? And personally, I have to stop explaining this, because I know those people. It's been around long enough, especially the last few months, for you to tell me you don't understand what the Black Lives Matter movement is. You can't tell me you don't understand that watching every day to see the systemic racism and everything people do to try to keep the Black persons down, okay, so you don't move forward. And I mean, even me personally, I worked for the state for 30 years, okay? I know that as hard as I work, I knew that if I was a white man, I could have been, I could have made, been so much, higher in the way I work, okay? But things happen today, and people do everything they can to keep you down. Things like like I said in the same thing, things like for me to feel like I have to dress up to go to the doctor in order for them to treat me better than the white man, wearing a short, and t-shirt, okay? And all that, all that is part of, the reason I say that. And most people don't understand that. For me to be out there in the thinking, if a cop, or anybody sees me, they feel like there's a suspicious man, going on, in the street, and that happened to me in Saratoga, and a few years ago, waiting for a friend and sitting in my car, and next thing I know, I was waiting for a friend just 10 minutes. Next thing I know, there was 5 police cars, around me, because somebody in the neighborhood called and said there's a suspicious man sitting in the car for 10 minutes, okay? All that, it's because I'm Black. That wouldn't happen to a white person, okay? If they thought my life, matters, that they wouldn't, that was just like you sitting there, and then I wouldn't be saying all lives matter. No, all lives don't matter, okay? And because when you stop the white man, you're not ready to shoot him or to put your foot on his neck, okay? It's because you see us as an animal, you see us as a dog out there. So yes, all lives matter, but not all lives are being treated like animals, okay?
Right.
And those people who saying blue lives matter, white lives matter, they just refuse to understand that. They know it, but when you have that kind of hatred in your heart, and you'll do or say whatever you want to say, just so to you to just so for your own good, and you just don't want to, you refuse to accept it, but you do understand what it means, and I know for sure they do.
Right. So let's talk about, you've written in this essay that this is going to go forward, marches, demonstrations, actions. Do you believe that the theater and the power of putting on something, really well written, really well acted, really well directed can have the same force as people taking to the streets? Do you believe in the power of theater for social change?
Yes, big time. People protest differently. People who don't do theater, who don't write, who don't sing, and everybody, in the one way to raise the voice is be out there and do whatever it takes to be heard, okay? And people like me, which is what I've been doing, and I know I've done it. I know every time I put on a play about social injustice, about racism, and so always positive, nothing that will insult people, but you will be uncomfortable, but those are things to teach people, to educate people, and we have talk back. And by continue doing what I'm doing, putting on plays like this about our movement, about slavery, about racism, and yes, that's definitely it's going to help and change things, because people, I mean, it's the same way when you take those plays to school to educate people, because a lot of people don't know anything about Juneteenth. A lot of people don't know anything about slavery. Okay, when I do those plays, that's my way of educating you to know about our past, because there's the only way you can change your heart. The only way you can move toward the future is to know about your past. is to know about, you know, the past and everybody. And you can understand that better. A lot of people don't understand anything about slavery, but if you take some time and do a little research, you'll appreciate it, especially with the systemic racism. You'll appreciate what's going on now more. You'll appreciate why there is a Black Lives Matter movement. You'll appreciate, you know, all that. But most people don't take time to educate themselves by coming and see the kind of plays that I put on, that I produce. That will help you and understand what we're going through, understand why I have to write pieces like that, understand why, you know, a lot of people, you know, are fighting right now. Yes,
Right.
because people only know about Martin Luther King, but they don't know all those other people who've been fighting. They don't know about Malcolm X, you know, who was fighting for the same thing Martin Luther King was fighting for, you know, just different way, but people protest differently, you know, which is why through my theater, I protest differently. Other theater put on regular play, get a good laugh, and then you go home. You come see a play that we produce, I produce. You can get a good laugh, you cry, but you go home, you know, feeling like, wow, I didn't know all that. Now I can go on and talk to my partner and my kids and educate them, and that's how we're gonna move forward and make, you know, and make this system and make, you know, life better for everybody else, for people of color and everybody else.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a current project that you mentioned. You've done acting, you've done directing, you've done producing, but now you are working on playwriting on a two-person play with Patrick White, who's well known for area audiences as an actor, as a director. We've known Patrick White at the Writers Institute for many, many years. He comes to a lot of our events. He's very well read. He actually used to be a bookseller.
Yep.
In local bookstores. So I'm a friend of Patrick's for many years. Talk about what you're working on in Patrick White, and is it on systemic racism and racial justice? Is that the theme, or?
I can't say a lot about it. And Aaron Moore is directing the play. I can't even say the name yet because
Okay.
you know, because the director hasn't really put anything out. But it is a two-character play that covers almost everything. It covers about, you know, religion and politics and life and whether you're an atheist or whether you believe in God and education. It's a two-character play between a Black man and a white man, and we rehearsing now, and it's gonna be pre-recorded on stage to be aired on social media. So I can't say a lot about it, but that's a project we're working on now. You know, as it's not with the Black Theatre Troupe actually to clear that up. It's with the acting with Aaron Moore, and he is producing it, and he cast me and Patrick on that. But
That's
we are
great.
working on other, you know, small, yeah.
I was going to ask for some of your influences or your heroes in the theater. Hearing you describe that, I think a little bit of Atho Fugard. His play, Sizwe Banze is Dead, and his plays about apartheid in South Africa really speak to exactly what I think Black Lives Matter movement is about, you know, oppression of a group of people.
Right.
So I think of his plays as very much driven by a desire for social justice and for reform. But what plays, playwrights, writers have been an influence on you?
Uh, wow, there are so many. If you come to my house, starting from August Wilson and which is one of my favorite playwrights.
Yes.
And then you have Dominique Morisseau, you know, who is, you know, I don't know if you probably know about her, and
Right.
who's now really big out there, you know, and we did, and she directed Pipelines, which another play that I will be doing. You know, it's all about, you know, racism with the kids in school, with and what they're going through with. It's between Dominique Morisseau and a few, there's so many of them there because I'm reading every day. I have all those plays to be done. I have so many heroes in the theater because the thing is what people don't understand. Most Black playwrights write about our experiences. Okay, most Black playwrights write about the Black family, you know, about racism, about slavery, about, you know, civil rights movement. Okay, and we have to. That's, you know, and we have to, because, you know, this civil rights movement, just you know, fighting injustice and racism, you know, and if you look back, this is all we, you know, and Black people. I mean, it's this time now. It's getting a little different now. People are writing about all kind of different things, but yeah, August Wilson, Dominic Morisseau are two of my favorite playwrights right now, who wrote about, you know, our experience and social injustice and stuff. Yeah.
So we had August Wilson at the Writers Institute many years ago. I got to interview him. And we also had,
cool.
we had Dale Orlander Smith, who had a new play. She gave us a sort of a preview of a new play she was writing on Ferguson and the racial injustice there. And so we've had some tremendous Black playwrights as part of the Writers Institute in the past. We're trying to get Lynn Nottage. She's very busy and difficult to get.
Lynn Nottage, yes, I did one of her plays a couple of years ago. I love her too. That's what I'm talking about. There's so many, you know, playwrights, and a lot of people. One thing we're trying to do, and Patrick White has been doing a lot of that, promoting a lot of, you know, Black plays, things we should be doing in the local community theater. A lot of these artistic directors in the area, and I actually have people, you know, leaders in the theater communities asking me, where do I find those plays that I do it? And I can never understand that question. And all I can say, you know, Black people do write too, you know. You do have to, you don't, you know, if you've never, if you know, there are Black playwrights too, that's what I tell them. You know, if you take some time, even myself, that's how I find them. I do research, you know, I'm on Amazon, you know, that come all the time. I go online, I Google. All you have to do, Black playwright, Google will give you a list of them, okay? But if you weren't interested or didn't even think about doing a play, you know, with people of color, you know, and if you never thought about that, no, you're not gonna think that. Yeah, and there are thousands and thousands of Black playwrights. You just need to go out there and find them. That's how I find them myself. Yeah.
That's great. Well, we look forward to this two-person play with you and Patrick White coming to a local stage sometime soon. I know you can't really talk about it in depth now, but thanks for describing it a little bit. We've been really grateful to be speaking on the conversation today with Jean-Remy Monnay, the founder and artistic director of the Black Theatre Troupe of Upstate New York. This has been really tremendous. Jean-Remy, I hope we'll be involved. We're working, as you know, with Dr. Alan Screen and the Center for Law and Justice on a major symposium on systemic racism in October. And we appreciate permission to run your powerful essay, and we'll get you and the Black Theatre Troupe of Upstate New York involved somehow, I hope.
Thank you, and I'm definitely looking forward to see you when this whole crazy thing is over. Thank you for asking me to be here. And hopefully that we collaborate one day and do something. So that would be great. Thank you very much, Paul. I really appreciate it. It was great seeing you here.
You too.
All right.
Take care.